The interplay between dimensional foresight and volitional foresight, a dual framework of divine perception. While God the Father possesses perfect perception across all dimensions of reality, he employs two distinct forms of foresight, dimensional and volitional. Dimensional foresight allows him to see natural trajectories and behavioral patterns, while volitional foresight, the foresight of moral choices, remains intentionally restrained because of the infinite possibilities of choice indicative to free will. In our previous exploration, we examined the relationship between divine foreknowledge and human free will. We found that God, though capable of foreseeing all things, purposefully limits the use of foreknowledge in individual moral decisions. Instead of controlling outcomes, he allows human freedom to unfold authentically. This restraint is not a limitation of ability, but an expression of love and respect for choice. In this continuation, we refine the idea by distinguishing between two categories of divine perception: dimensional foresight and volitional foresight. These two foresights are not opposing forces, but coexisting frameworks through which God interacts with the world. Dimensional foresight, perceiving the patterns. Dimensional foresight refers to God's ability to perceive natural patterns, cause and effect relationships, and behavioral trajectories. It includes understanding how events are likely to unfold based on physical laws and moral tendencies. This kind of foresight functions similarly to a higher dimensional being observing a lower dimensional space. If God exists outside our limited three-dimensional world, then at minimum his awareness spans 4 dimensions or more, giving him the ability to perceive time and motion differently than we do. For example, when a bird falls to the ground, God knows. As Jesus said, not even a sparrow falls without the Father's knowledge. This doesn't necessarily mean he used foreknowledge to see a specific moment in time, but rather that his dimensional foresight allowed him to observe the trajectory of events, observing it unfold. In this sense, dimensional foresight is akin to mathematical proportion or direct variation, what might be called a spiritual y equals k times x. Trajectories can be observed, trends can be measured, and outcomes can be reasonably anticipated. Volitional foresight, the limits of knowing the heart. Volitional foresight, by contrast, deals with the moral decisions of the human heart, choices rooted in free will. Unlike physical outcomes or observable patterns, the heart can change direction at any time. This makes volitional foresight inherently unbounded and unpredictable unless God chooses to employ foreknowledge, which he doesn't employ for individual choices because it would violate our free will. This is where we return to the account of Abraham. When God asked Abraham to sacrifice Isaac, he watched Abraham's journey unfold moment by moment. God didn't use foreknowledge to skip ahead to the outcome. Instead, he allowed Abraham's faith to fully express itself through action. Only when Abraham lifted the knife did God say, "Now I know that you truly fear God." That wasn't ignorance, it was divine restraint. God honored Abraham's moral freedom and allowed the test to reach its conclusion before affirming the result. Volitional foresight is not about probabilities or tendencies. It's about the heart's potential to choose differently at any moment. For all intents and purposes, it's unpredictable. Still, these two forms of foresight aren't isolated. They interact. A person's moral choices, volitional, shape their behavioral trajectory, dimensional. If someone draws closer to God, seeks His guidance and lives in harmony with His principles, their life may align more with divine protection, wisdom, and purpose. This is why prayer, faith, and obedience have practical and spiritual consequences. The closer a person is to God, the more aligned their dimensional trajectory may be with safety and blessing. But none of this erases the fact that time and unforeseen occurrence can affect anyone. Even the faithful experience hardship. God does not promise escape from all suffering, but He does perceive and sometimes act within dimensional foresight to protect or guide those who walk closely with Him. At Armageddon, God will judge based on more than a snapshot in time. According to the Bible, survival is based on spiritual trajectory. Whether a person is drawing close to God and responding to His guidance, it's not about perfection, but direction. God, in His perfect foresight, considers patterns of repentance, loyalty, and faith over time. This judgment is a product of dimensional awareness, not deterministic foreknowledge. The interplay between dimensional and volitional foresight reveals a dual framework in how God perceives and interacts with creation. Dimensional foresight allows Him to see the paths we're walking, like a higher dimensional observer watching a timeline unfold. Volitional foresight, however, remains sacred and indeterminate, reserved for the heart's own moral freedom. God, in His love, chooses not to overstep the boundaries of free will. This model reinforces a powerful truth. God does not micromanage the human heart. He reads patterns, honors choice, and intervenes when it aligns with His purpose. By understanding these two forms of foresight, we gain a richer appreciation of how divine wisdom governs the world, not through control, but through patience, awareness, and grace, God's undeserved kindness.